hand 101 was funky. Brian Rass joined the game, and we've been playing together for about 5 years. Brian raised with 1,200. I know I have a tight image, and I just wanted to play with that a little bit, and so I did something that's super atypical for me. Pot, P-O-T, which was raised out of position with a junk hand. Except it was deuce 7, and whenever I'm playing with Rass, we're almost always playing the deuce 7 game. And part of my intention in that hand was to show it and say, aren't we playing the deuce 7? But as the hand developed, I realized, well, I'm not going to say that because I thought that would be a little, like, torturous or whatever. So I popped it to 4,400. He called, and I was like, oh, I was just trying to win it there. And I don't even know what I'm thinking because it's so bad to play. How am I going to win it there? He's always calling. Hello, it's pot limit hold'em before the flop is position. And then the flop came Jack 9-5, and I was like, oh, I'm going to rep something here. So I just took a line of twisted aggression, and sometimes that works in poker, and sometimes it doesn't. So I bet 6,400 into 9,600, and he called. And I should be shutting down right there. Then when the 10 came, I was like, wow, I have to just believe I have king, queen. That's the only way out. And I bet 22,000 or something.
22,400.
I really didn't have a plan for if he called. I mean, if he raises at any point, I'm done, but he folded. It was really harsh. That I shouldn't have been in that spot. That's bad poker, I think. I got lucky with some bad poker.
Like a bull you are, Phil Lock. No fear. Just push, push.
I thought I had the best hand.
I kind of just thought it was like a little, like, go in and get a sheep and get out kind of thing, but it was a bad play. The fox could have been caught there easily.
Well, I couldn't believe it. Hand number 1, I had ace-6 and decided to open for 2,000. Play a little bit more aggressive this time out, and I was called by 2 players, and the flop came 10-10-8. Antonio bet out 4,400, and I said, well, it just looks a little weak. Maybe he has an 8. Maybe he has, you know, 2 6s or 2 7s. Let me go ahead and raise it. So I raised him 10,000 more. He called fairly quickly, which told me 2 things. 1, that obviously he had my hand beat, and number 2, that he didn't have a 10, because I think he would have studied a while longer with the 10 there. On the turn, off came a 3, and he checked to me, and I thought, man, you have to put some heat in him in case he has an 8, in case he has 2 7s, in case he has 2 6s. You have to bluff this one more time. So I bet 17,000. Now, at that point, he called me, and I was kind of done with it, except one thing. He called really quickly. The fact he called quickly told me he wasn't strong. Sometimes people call quickly to make you think they're strong, and so at that point, I thought he's not strong, and by not strong, I mean that he didn't have a 10. But he knows that I'm not going to be bluffing there. He knows that if I'm betting 17,000, I'm not betting an 8. So I either have jacks beat or I don't. The river, unfortunately, was a 5. And now he checked again, and I sat there with 22,000 in front of me thinking forever. And I thought if I bet 40,000 or 44,000, he's going to call me. So what would I bet if I had a 10? What would I bet if I had 2 aces? So I bet 22,000. So he's studying, and he said,
Ace 10?
And I said, nope, I don't have ace 10. I felt like if I would have been quiet and not interacted with him, he would have called me. He would have seen right through it. But he kept looking at my eyes, and I was shocked when he folded. I was so happy, you know, and I thought, all right, you manned up, you did it right.
There was one hand where I raised pre-flop with king 8 of clubs, and both Daniel and the loose cannon called. Up until this point, Daniel and I played a lot of hands, and we've both been very, very active. But I think the most important thing in his hand is that the loose cannon is underneath 100,000, and he's gonna have to make a move soon, and Daniel kept telling him that he should make a move soon, or at least hinting at it. So they both call. The flop is ace jack 6, complete airball for me. They both check. I still want a continuation bet it because I don't think I can get the showdown with king high. And it's still a good board where they can just fold any miss. So I bet 2,700. Now Daniel makes 7,200, and at that point I immediately thought, why would you check raise with a real hand and not give the loose cannon an opportunity to make some weird move because he wants to get above the 100,000? And Daniel kept referring to that, so I think if Daniel had a really big hand, then he would have waited to see if the loose cannon would spaz or make any weird move. So as soon as Daniel check raised there, I just didn't believe any of it. And loose cannon folded, and I called on the flop. The turn was another ace. He checked. I kind of just wanted to get to showdown at this point, and I think I had a big chance of him checking the river, so I checked behind. The river wasn't very pretty. It was the 9 of hearts. There were 2 hearts on the flop, so if he did check raise with a flush draw, then he would have gotten there. But I thought he was trying to fake a value bet, betting 9,000 on the river. And I thought about it for a while, but then I figured I just wanted to stick to my flop read, which was that he had absolute garbage. I was just hoping he didn't have king 10 or something like that.
That was sick. I had 4 high.
Luckily he had 4 deuce, so king high won.
So in this hand, this is what you call a leveling war. I only make this play because I know PRAHLAD's a very good player. Basically, the loose cannon open, and I had been super tight, especially on my buttons. I was just getting literally no cards at all. So I just decided that I was going to re-raise this no matter what came, and I was going to bet the flop and probably take it down because the loose cannon has either been folding to re-raises or he would call and then check fold a lot of flops. So it's a very profitable spot. So I re-raise. PRAHLAD flat calls, and I think when he flat calls, he's either got a hand like ace-queen or ace-king, or a hand like pocket tens, pocket jacks, pocket nines, something like this. He could also have a hand like king-queen suited if he's really trying to mix it up, but I thought more likely he would muck that hand. And the loose cannon folds. 8-6-2 rainbow comes in the flop, and I have a gut shot, and that's it. He checks to me, and of course his range is very strong here, but I have 2 options. Either give up and pray for a 4, or try to take him off of what's probably a middle strength hand. And I think I'm only trying to do this because I've actually been playing pretty tight and have a pretty tight image. And while I did re-raise the loose cannon, he still raised under the gun, so my range for re-raising him is a little bit stronger than normal. So I make a continuation bet, and he calls. The turn is a 9, and he checks. At this point, I could keep betting, but I think it's pretty hard because if I bet here, first of all, he could very easily have a set, like a set of 9, set of 8, set of 6, something like this. Also, I thought if he has 7s or 10s, there's a chance he might even turn it into a bluff because we're deep stacked to try to take me off a hand like kings or aces or queens. So I didn't want to risk that, especially since I have 5 high. So I thought it was mostly prudent to check. I have a double gut shot. If a 7 comes or a 4 comes, I have a straight. And I thought I could represent something on the river, and the river is a board pairing 8. At this point, he checks again. His hand is pretty much face up as either pocket 10s, pocket 7s, or ace high. He could have a boat, but it's unlikely, especially when the 8 comes to the river, because now there's only one combination of 8s, and that's quads. So I think most likely he's got a hand like 10s. This is where the leveling war comes in. It looks like he has 10s. He knows that I know that, and I know that he knows that. So it really just comes down to, does he think that I think he's gonna fold? And I just thought, you know, if I bet something like 11-5, 12-5, that he would definitely just, you know, make a crying call. But I just thought by making a $16,000 bet, it was, you know, close to the size of the pot, and it really looks like I was pot controlling on the turn, meaning I was checking with a hand like kings or queens to try to get value from the river. So I thought that that's what he would put me on, and he folded, and that was it.
Well, I've played a decent amount of poker with Randy online. This is the first time I had an opportunity to play with him in a live scenario.
Early on in the big game, I was raising a lot of pots, just playing very aggressively, and a lot of the table noticed this.
I felt like he might be a little more uncomfortable.
The loose cannon opens for 1,600. Daniel calls right after. I don't make too much of it. I woke up in a small blind with pocket queens, and you know, this is like a gold mine because I've been just repopping so much and I finally get a pretty good hand. I make it 6,000, which is a pretty sizable raise.
After she folds, I figure we've got more than enough chips for me to make sense to call with pocket 7s.
And I expected Daniel to call with a very wide range at this point, just given that he was in position. We're playing pretty deep stacks. I would expect him to have any suited connector, any pocket pair. Then the flop came, Jack 3-2, rainbow.
I was trying to tell him that I had pocket 3s. I'm like, wow, really cool, you know? An interesting situation, okay? Because I have 3 3s.
I didn't really listen too much into it because I figured he's just trying to sell me a story.
You don't believe that?
I played a lot of hands with Daniel, and he thinks I'm an aggressive player, so betting outright on a flop was definitely the best decision. So I bet $8,000 into the pot.
I figure he's either got aces, kings, queens, you know, or like ace, king, ace, queen. So I really want him to slow down for the most part, and also potentially like set up a bluff, because at that point, you know, I have 7s, which beats some hands, but if he's not bluffing, I'm in trouble. So I decided to convince him that I'm gonna call the flop, call the turn, and raise on the river. That's plan A. I might change my mind, but plan A is call, ship river.
And once he called, you gotta start putting him on ranges. I'm gonna put him on like some jacks, a lot of jacks actually, and I'll say like any pocket pair that wasn't a set on the flop. But if you look at that whole range, there's definitely more hands that lost to pocket queens than beat me.
The turn card was a 7. Now all of a sudden my plan changed. He bet 20,000.
I chose to bet 20,000 instead of checking. The reason is when he called on the flop, he's more likely to have a pair. So me checking to him and letting him pocket control wasn't really a great situation, give him a free card. I figure I'm just gonna keep on betting here. I was playing aggressively, so I would expect him to put me on a bluff a lot of times and he would call me down light.
If I went ahead and raised here, then he would really believe that I had 3 threes. I did get lucky enough to hit the set, so I thought if I raise him, he'll fold, but if he's got nothing, he might go ahead and bluff me on the river or try to because it doesn't look like I have a set. So I decided to call and hope that he bluffs the river. River card comes in ace, and he very confidently bets 47,800. So I'm actually a little bit worried. I'm now worried that you just made 3 aces.
I think it kind of worked in my favor because the ace is a very scary card for his range.
You know, I think some of the time he has ace-jack. I'm also very worried that he has pocket jacks or pocket aces. He bet 50,000 almost, and he's only got 14,000 left, so I'm not folding. I certainly can't fold a set. My only thought process was, does it make sense to raise?
He took his time debating.
It really smells like aces.
And eventually, he just called, and I actually said my hand very quickly. Queen. I thought I won for sure, but then he told me he turned me.
Turned to set. And I'm never going to bluff in that spot, so I think I played it right by just calling the river and not getting the extra 14,000 in value.
That's just how it is, and you know, you don't want to dwell on it too much, just kind of take the information and just move on to the next hand.